this chat with Josy. We're really excited to hear about his story and his journey as he integrates his culture into his work. And I think everything I've sort of seen so far, I'm really excited to hear about work. Just a couple of quick things. We will be doing a bit of a session that will be run by Diane. There's going to be some time at the end for any questions and things like that. So if you have any questions for him, then certainly you can let us know. And a reminder that the show is running starting on August 10th at the Leslie Grove Gallery. It's called Twisted Spirit. And the opening is on the 11th from 6 to 8. So we're certainly hoping that we can see as many of you there as possible and help us spread the word. So Kim, would you like to do the land acknowledgement?
Sure. The Artists Network and the Leslie Grove Gallery acknowledge the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat peoples. These territories are the enduring home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island. We also acknowledge that we are hosted on land covered by Treaty 13, held by the Mississaugas of the Credit. Toronto is bound to the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, which bound the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee peoples to peacefully share and protect the lands of the Great Lakes. In the spirit of this covenant, we are grateful to be able to meet, create, and grow together in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect on this ancestral land.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to pass this on now to Diane Montrell, who is going to be our host and moderator. So take it away, Diane.
Thank you so much, Kate and Kim, for the land acknowledgement. First of all, I would like to welcome Josy. We have an amazing opportunity to have him. Josy, welcome with us tonight at the Artists Network and all the many people that were able in their busy schedule to join us. There's a lot of people that have asked me, who is Josy and things like this. I said, well, you need to come. We will have him and have a conversation. I know, Josy, when I've met you about a year and a half ago, you amazed me because the richness of who you are as a young Indigenous and the traditional way and how you had learned to walk the today's life and the traditional ways. What I know of you, you're a sculptor. You work with the wood, you work with the stone. You also paint, but people don't know that you also do traditional canoe. So that makes you a canoe maker, a traditional one. You have so much gift and you give us an opportunity tonight to meet you more and the following up with your exhibition at the Leslie Grove Gallery. So as I mentioned, you have learned to walk both ways in today's world and in your traditional way. And I would like you to share with us, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I could honestly start off saying that it wasn't easy having a foot in both worlds, you know, the traditional aspect as well as the Western society. Growing up, I grew up from a very traditional family. A lot of it had to do with like teaching ceremony and such. But as I was getting older, I felt that it wasn't accepted as much as I would have liked or I thought it would be in, I guess, in just simple society, you know, Western society. And as I got older and experienced a lot more unfortunate problems and issues from other people, or, you know, depending on where I was or how I was doing something, it kind of put me in a sense where it made me almost learn from every area to try to be stronger. And I look at it as, let me see, like looking at it from through two different lenses, right? Like I try to fit in the Western society so that, or so much so that if you were to see me, you would probably think I was something not native as such, because I try to, I guess you could say, put that traditional part behind me. And over the years, realizing that that wasn't who I was, I couldn't just put it behind me whenever I wanted to, because there was still issues and problems and situations that I would run into in society that brought that traditional aspect back, right? So again, being able to keep a foot in both canoes, so to speak, was very hard, just trying to keep that balance. And, I've been through a lot of stuff. A lot of the sculptures that are going to be displayed at the show here have a lot to do with my personal life. A lot of them are based on I guess situations that I was put in, or just unfortunate things that happened to me during my childhood, and becoming a young man and just trying to live, I guess you could say, just trying to live among everybody else in Western society. So it wasn't easy, and I can tell you right now, it still isn't. But it's all I could do. I could, until the day I die, I got to keep one foot in both canoes, and hope that everybody sees the importance of it, rather than try to make one person come to the other side, rather than just understanding and stand side by side. So
Thank you so much for that sharing. I know I had the privilege about a year ago to see your exhibition in Quebec. What a beautiful exhibition, and what you have done with the sculpture and everything. And I want to ask you, how do you describe your work? Talk to me about, and to us about your work.
I describe my work as a part of my life. So to me, they're not just sculptures. I'm sharing an experience or a feeling that I've went through somewhere along the path of my life. So I would say my sculptures, my art, it's not so much, I don't look at it as my art, my sculptures. I look at it as freezing a point in time in my life and being able to express that through stone. It's some people express their feelings and how their past was and such through talking or writing, and mine is strictly through sculpting. I could tell you every single piece that I've done and what it represents, and why, even right down to the very line that I cut into the face of some of them. I could tell you why I put that there, as a representation of a scar that I accumulated over the years, right? So I would describe my art that other people would see as art as a part of my life. I'm showing you a snippet of something that happened in my lifetime along my ways.
When I look at your sculpture that I have seen, you could feel the spirit into the sculpture. There's a strong spirit, and you have to be connected to be able to do that kind of work. I would try, and my medium is different, and I don't think that it would be very successful as the way you bring out the goodness, the confusion, where you are in your statement as an Indigenous person, also a traditionalist also, and it's so much beautiful. What is your great strength as Indigenous traditionalist artists, do you think? I know we all have weakness, but I want to see also your strength in that, because you have a lot.
I would say my strength regarding that question is my weakness. And what I mean by that is being able to succumb to my feeling and my understanding about how my life should be. Whereas a lot of people would see that as a weakness, I run off of that. I run off that because it's feeding I guess you could say that ganekuyo inside me, that good mind, that heart, that flame, right? So my strength is my weakness, because the more I feel that I'm getting in touch with certain things when it comes to art, or even family or situations along my life, some may feel like it's a weakness, or, I succeed the most when I feel like I'm at my lowest, you know what I mean? When I come, whether it's emotionally or physically, I get a lot out of that because I remember my strength, and by seeing my weakness, it makes me a lot more strong in the situation that I'm dealing with, especially with life, being an Indigenous man.
Yeah. And I believe that, I don't know, it might be different for you. I guess when I go down to my weakness point, I get more creative because I let down all the side that normally stop me. you know,
Yep.
because you become too analyzing things and controlling things. So I don't know if it's the same with you.
Oh, yeah. I think in most artists, I think there's that resemblance in each other's strengths and weaknesses, because depending on what type of medium you're in, when you're at your lowest, that's where your mind is at its most vulnerable, right?
Yes.
And it allows more ideas, more thoughts, more just energy to be able to run through your mind. So yeah, I think in some sense, like some, I guess, in some way, I think it's a positive thing, whereas others would be like, oh, well, I've been feeling pretty down. I've been feeling pretty low, and I've been going through this and I've been going through that. I don't think I could do it. Whereas when I'm at that situation and I'm in that area, I feel like, you know what? The best thing I could do is carve. And when I carve, whatever I'm feeling goes right into that sculpture, right into that stone or that wood or whichever medium I'm in. I reflect it all into that. And it brings me back up. It almost heals me by being able to just release that into the stone, right?
That's true. That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, talking about sculpture, how do you work the sculpture? What kind of environment are you working in?
Uh, to be honest, I think I create my own environment in my head, really. Physically, I've carved in a lot of beautiful places, whether it be atmosphere or just something as simple as a roof over my head while I'm carving. But in no matter what type of I guess atmosphere I'm in, I always have this certain way in my mind that I kind of project into, kind of like a regiment. Like I make myself go to a certain place in my mind, whether I'm carving in the middle of the rain outside, getting soaking wet, or like in the middle of a snowstorm, indoors, nice and warm, So atmosphere and such, like for me, that really doesn't matter, because I kind of like just, I kind of just go, I get lost in my head. I mean, it sounds odd, but like in all honesty, it's pretty much where I go. Once I'm sculpting, then that's all I see. It's like I get tunnel vision, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're all got in, and then there's nothing to stop you, whatever weather and
Yeah.
obstacle you're just in. So tell me a little bit about, what do you think inspire you to do wood sculpture, stone, or painting, and canoe example?
Um, well, starting with wood, what inspired me to try to do wood was my grandfather. How he, like, that's all he ever carved was wood, and he was very well known for carving ceremonial masks, like false face masks and such. And as I got older, it became different mediums, like it became stone. And like, to be completely honest, I paint, but that came on a whim. There was this time about 20 years ago, I was like wondering what I was going to do next, and I didn't have any wood. It was like too late in the season to even try to get any wood. I was broke. I had no money to even try to purchase stone. So I was, I like, there was always like paper. I always drew and stuff. So I thought, oh, what the hell? I'm going to try to get painting a go. And so I started painting, and that's where the whole idea of me painting even came from. It was literally because I had no stone or wood to, I guess, express my artisticness when I needed to. So my inspiration was literally just not having the two other things that helped me when it became painting. So that's how that came about. My canoe building actually came from my grandfather. Like, like I was going through a pretty rough time when I was a little guy, and my grandfather, he was pretty busy. Like he taught at a couple of universities, and he was always doing workshops at a lot of places. So he was always traveling and gone. And I was kind of like lost as a young man, and even like a youth, a child. And one day he asked me to come out, and we went in the bush, and we were like going around collecting all these different types of woods and such, right? And being like 11 years old, 12 years old, not knowing what the heck I'm doing or why we're, digging in the ground for like these root things and, all this stuff. So eventually after a couple of days, I start being like, okay, I don't want to do that. And then, he would get upset with me and he would say, okay, well, you don't have to. And then a couple of days later, he would take me in and he'd say, okay, well, let's go and do this. So he'd take me and go get like bark or whatever. And then over a period of like 3 weeks or almost a month, I would say, we start building this canoe in his workshop where he did all his wood carving for his mast. And it was something completely different for me because I've never seen anything else in his workshop besides wood chips and wood shavings from where he would sit there and carve all the time, And so like he was showing me these things and he told me that we're gonna just build a canoe and stuff. And I thought, okay, cool, And it took I don't know. Now as I look back, I think it probably only took maybe about a month to build. But being like 11, 12 years old, I swear it felt like it took me like an entire year to build it. But it was fun because every once in a while, I would do it and we'd, spend a couple of days on it and then I'd get bored of it and I wouldn't want to do it and I get angry and I don't want to do it. And then finally, a couple of days later, it became a thing where like so he would know as soon as I'd get upset or whatever. So you'd give me a couple of days to cool off or whatever. And then in the end of it, he's like, he wanted to go and see if it floated. And I was like, okay, cool, And again, being young, not even realizing or whatever. So we went to this in front of this in his house. He had a huge pond in front of his house. It had like a little tiny, like 3 foot long dock. And he told me to get in it. And I was like, what? I didn't know like what the heck I was doing. I thought I was being bad. And he just got sick and tired of it and was like, you know what, get in that canoe and I'm going to leave you there. But being young, I was like, okay, so I got in the canoe and he gave me a paddle and he was like paddling, like, trying to tell me how to paddle it around. And it was on, like, he had it tied to the dock. It was like probably like a 20-foot rope or whatever it was tied to. So I was like trying to canoe and everything. And then he pulled me back in. And after about an hour or so of, playing around in the water, it was so fun, like I've never done that before. And, I don't know, it was just an experience that I've never had. And then when he brought me back in, he was telling me about the different type of stuff that we built the canoe with, like the different types of wood. And it kind of like made me realize when I was younger that it wasn't just something that he was doing. It was like, at the end of him explaining to me, like telling me the traditional reasons for the woods and stuff like that he told me that it was mine. And then when he told me it was mine, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of hit in a different, it kind of registered to me in a different way, like almost instantly, I remember crying. And I thought like, it was so cool because I helped build my very own canoe, and without him telling me this or whatever, I'm sure if he would have told me that it was for me, I probably would have, stuck at it from the very beginning. But that wasn't the case. And it was like, he wanted me to learn in order to understand what goes into the concentration of building a canoe. And ever since then, I was like, I loved it. And I continued building them.
That's wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing these precious moments, because it brings us back to the time that we had that relationship and sometimes they're not there anymore. So we still want to cherish these times. They're precious. I know as an artist, all of us, eventually we have challenges. What are kind of challenges in these times that you have encountered?
Oh man,
the list is too long.
I think I would say my biggest challenge was, all right, I'm not going to say was, I'm going to say is, getting people to just understand my art. You know, I want people to have a personal connection to my art. And I feel like if more people have a personal connection to my art, then it won't be such an issue as an Indigenous man to try to sell sculptures in different areas, you know, of whether it be Canada or United States or overseas or wherever. But because I don't get that opportunity, it's kind of like, it's a barrier that I'm like literally, you know, losing nails over, trying to claw up and get over. That I would say would be my biggest hurdle, my biggest problem. I mean, besides like just trying to get noticed, you know, I think anybody as an artist could put their stuff out there and sell their stuff if it's for the right price and this and that. But I don't want to do it just for the right price. I don't want to do it just for this and that. You know, I want people to share a part of my life. I want them to feel and experience, whether it be good or bad, just a small sliver or a fraction of realism when it comes to like what I had to go through or what I felt as I was growing up as an artist, or just trying to make a living as an artist, or trying to, you know, sell something for next to nothing just to be able to have nothing as an artist, right?
Thank you so much for sharing these, because these are possibly part that us as artists also we're, you know, meeting with obstacles and everything. And sometimes you could sell a piece or a painting, but when is going to be the next one, right? So it takes its time. And sometimes it's, you still have to pay the bill. You still have to pay the rent or the studio to work and things like this, you know? So, and that sometimes, I would say, puts stress on the creativity. If you're not disturbed by thousands of email or people, 100 calls and everything.
Western world.
Technology is good, but sometimes it's too much.
That's right.
So what do you think what kind of strategy do you use every day to motivate yourself to create? Because the quality that I have seen in your stone is amazing. It's a wow factor. You could feel it. You know, they look like they are alive. So what triggers you to bring that creativity that motivate you?
In all honesty, again, people probably think I'm nuts for saying it and such, and I have said it multiple times throughout my career, that I just let the stone tell me, you know, like, well, what do you mean? Stone can't tell you, it's just a rock. Well, it's just a rock to you, but it's something different to me, you know. There's been plenty of time where I look at it as stone for me is just as stubborn as I am, you know, when it comes to certain things. Because I could be a stubborn mule when it becomes certain things, and I feel, you know, when I'm carving stone is the exact same way. You know, it's never exactly going to give you what you expect it to, or what you try to make it be. Right? True. It doesn't matter how great of an artist you are when it comes to sculpting. It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 10, 5, or 50 years. You know, that stone is gonna give you what it wants to give you when it wants to give it to you, you know? And there's been a lot of times I've tried to do a sculpture like a specific way, and the stone is like, nope, sorry, not gonna happen, you know? And so now, you know, I actually struggled with that a lot when I was a lot younger and I first started with stone, because I was like, oh, you know, it's so hard to work with. And it's because I felt like I was trying to make it be something that it didn't want to be. And then once I got older and I realized by just allowing the stone to show me what it wants to be, then it made it a lot easier for me to sculpt what it becomes. right? So my pieces, the way they are is simply because, in my eyes, that piece was already in the stone. I simply just, took all the extra stone away, and that's what it became.
Yes.
It's already there. A lot of people, if you're, an older man told me this one time, and he carved stone for, I would say like 40 years, 40 or 50 years he carved stone. His name's David Rubin, and he's like a very well-known like Inuit stone artist. And he told me this one day, he was at my workshop and he was telling me, he's like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do with this piece of stone here? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like I was thinking about doing this, and I was thinking about doing this, and I said about 6 or 7 different things, eh? And he just laughed. He stood there and he laughed at me, and I was like, what the heck is so funny? Like, why are you laughing at me? You're making me feel insecure right now. And he's like, just look at it, look at the stone. He's like, and then because we carved it together a few times, and he brought a couple of big whalebone pieces over, and he was like, here, like I'm gonna sit here and we're gonna carve, and you're gonna tell me what you're gonna carve, and that's what I want you to do. I said, okay, all right. We sat there, we started carving probably around 10:30 in the morning, and by I would say like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, man, this ain't going nowhere near what I wanted it to be. Like I wanted to have like this wild face with the hair blowing, and it ended up being like an eagle with a wing up. And he's like, well, that's because the stone didn't want you. It didn't want to be that. It's telling you what it wants by you being able to remove these pieces. So ever since he said that, now I'll sit there and I'll look at a piece of stone, and before I even know what I want to carve on it, I'll just start chipping at it and chip at it and chip at it and chip at it. And then it'll just eventually turn into a shape, right? And to me, that's the stone telling me exactly what it wants to be, rather than me trying to force it to be something that it doesn't want to be, But those words stuck with me. Even when I see him, like every once in a while, I'm like, you remember that time you made me feel insecure?
Josy, thank you so much for this wonderful sharing and wisdom and knowledge that you carry for even a young person that you are. Just amazing to see. We're going to go for the question, but before we go to the question, Josy, I would like to give a little bit of minute to Susie if she would like to add also something, because I'm sure I see her head going left and right, and sometimes I see a big smile, and so I'm sure she has something she would like to add.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the studio doing standing for him. So I get to witness all this stuff. That's why I'm laughing. And yes, he is as stubborn as stone. He never does exactly what I want him to. He's my sculpture. It's very frustrating. But yeah, when I look at the Josy, like he was talking about what he does, how he's just starts taking material away, and then it turns into something. And I've watched him so many times, and when I'm in my corner of the shop, doing my sanding, and I'm looking up, and I'm always amazed. And we've been working together for 6 years, and still like I'm in awe when I watch him carve something, because I know he's in a different place. I can see it in his face. Like I call him a spirit carver. He goes to this place, and then the way he handles the stone, it's almost casual. It's sort of like he looks at it and then takes some stuff away, and then he flips around in his hand, and then he takes some more away. And it really is, it's like he's revealing what's already there. It's just an amazing experience just to watch him. I have a background in commercial art, so I did all the art history thing. And it's just, it's like, he's going to laugh at me. It's like watching Michelangelo. It's just, I told you. It really is like, it's an amazing experience to just watch it happen in front of your eyes, because it's almost like he stepped out of himself. Almost like he's in a trance. Like all the stuff he was saying, I
could feel that. Yes, you could feel that.
Yeah, I've watched him. I've watched him go in his head, and I've watched him talk to the stone, and just like connect with it. So it's it's very accurate description. as an observer, that's what I see. So
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
one thing also that I love about Josy, one of the things, because I do love many things about you, Josy, but with all the richness and the wisdom and the knowledge to find such a humble person.
Mm.
It's amazing, amazing, because with sometimes being an artist, you're trying to just put out more than possibly who you are, but him, he has so much to offer and he's so humble. And I love that. I love that.
Oh, my
I would like
gosh.
I would like to thank you, Susie. Susie didn't introduce herself, but she's a Benaki. She's a amazing woman also, and she takes care of many things, working in collaboration with Josy also. And you will have, if you're coming to the opening, you'll have the chance to meet Josy and Susie also, and I'll be there also. And now I'm going to open the question for people because I'm sure that some people have questions for Josy. And don't be shy.
I'm
Yeah, if
ready
you
for
just
it.
want to
Let's hear 'em.
unmute yourself and ask the question, that would be awesome.
I got in on the call.
There's a hand up.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's Glenna. You
Yep,
have a question?
Yeah, Josie, I'd just like to ask, when you talk about your strength being your weakness and I certainly think that too, but I'd just like to ask you how you can work, and you may not be able to answer this, but your opinion would be valuable too. But as an artist who's more of a performing artist, a dancer or an actor, how you can't really be weak. You need that confidence, and I'm just wondering how you would feel about that.
That's a good question. And what I could say is I've been in situations where I've had to get up and sing in front of like 3,000 or 4,000 people, you
Mhm.
know, just on a
Mhm.
whim. And for before I go on, before I went on stage and stuff like that, I guess people have different ideas of weaknesses. And for me, that nervousness, that scared feeling, that butterflies in my stomach is a sense of weakness for me, because that's my body kind of like knowing that it's about to do something and is like telling me, no, well, I don't think you should do it. But my mind is like, yeah, you're gonna do it regardless, you know? And I kind of feed off that. And I feel like the more butterflies in my stomach, then the better I feel like I have to perform. And having to be able to sing in front of, 3,000 or 4,000 people
Native
by
guy.
myself on a stage,
Got a
to me
And
is exactly that. Like being able to just overcome those butterflies, and by overcoming the butterflies in my stomach and that nervousness is my strength shining, right? So therefore, in order for my strength to shine, I first need to feel that weakness to be able to overcome that, right?
Right. Oh, miigwech, that's great. Yeah. Yes.
So Josie, there's another question here from Louis. He would like to know if you do sketch before you start carving your stone.
Oh, sorry, you cut out there, Diane.
Okay, so Louis has a question. He would like to know if you're doing some sketching before you start doing a sculpture.
No, I've never ever my entire life ever sketched anything out before I did any sculpting. Same with my painting. I don't do anything, like I don't do any sketching at all. Like it's all when I paint, it's all freehand, just whatever my mind sees. And when I sculpt, it's just like I said earlier in the conversation there, like it doesn't matter what I plan on wanting the stone to be exactly bend to their will. But for me, I feel like I don't want that to happen. I want it to show me. So no, I don't ever sketch anything out before I do any sculptures.
Okay, that's great. So tell us a little bit about the exhibition. What are you going to bring, just to give us some insight on this exhibition coming?
Well, I think I'm going to bring a couple of canvases there. So some of my, more political standard paintings will be there. From the opinion of an Indigenous man trying to make it every day. But a lot of the sculptures that I have, so you're not going to see 100% every single sculpture that you saw in Montreal. I have I revamped a couple of them. You're going to definitely see some of the same ones, but there's a few of them that I revamped because I just feel like I leave things out. And that's another one of my weaknesses, right? Again, a weakness that becomes a strength, because I feel like a lot of times when I have a sculpture around at that time, in like, for example, a year and a half ago, when I did a sculpture at that moment, that's what it told me it wanted. But, if it's around me long enough, then I tend to start adding stuff to it, because I feel like it's telling me to add more to it. I feel like it's calling me to be like, hey, I feel like I'm not done yet. And so there's going to be a few pieces there that are definitely revamped. There's going to be a couple of newer pieces there that, again, these are parts of like snippets of my life. So because I was unable to do every feeling or whichever on my last show, I'm going to have new situations that I went through in my past put in a stone in this upcoming show, right? So there will be a couple of different ones there. Again, like I said, it's just, I have a weakness of revamping carvings, but it makes it stronger, because it gives it even more that feeling. Like, when I want it to be able to be the point where if you're a person coming through my show and you put your hand on it, that you're going to be able to feel that radiating off the sculpture,
That's right.
So
there's another question from Louis also, because he really want to know if you have any shape, motif, or theme that you will develop or that you like to develop. I have seen face, I have seen animals, and what is the gift this time that you're bringing there? Just to give us an insight again.
I think the gift that I really give is the fact that I have the ability to sculpt multiple different styles and types of sculptures, but with all the same feeling, with all the same integrity, with all the same artisticness. A lot of people, when they see my sculptures, I mean, like I know a lot of people that come to me at shows or whichever over the years that know me by some of the eagles that I do, because a lot of people say, like, some of the like the detail that I put into my eagles, they're almost like they feel like they're lifelike. Actually, Susie said one time, and I really respected when she said it, because it made me look at it in a different aspect. But she described one of my eagles as like not being carved, but kind of like frozen, like flash frozen in time, right? So a lot of people know me by my eagles. So to answer that, I guess some would say my highest gift would be how great my eagles turn out.
That's wonderful.
Right? But yeah, tell Louis I'm sorry. I'm trying to answer his question without getting too far into it, because I just feel like we don't have enough time for that.
Yeah. Well, this is why we have to say again, we will say that Josy will have a solo show. So I will invite you to come and be part of this Twisted Spirit exhibition. You'll have a lot to see, and you'll have a chance to see and meet Josy and Susie and I. The exhibition will be from August 10th to the 21st, and the opening reception will be August 11 from 6 to 8. So share the love, share to other people that it would be amazing to come and talk to Josy. He's an amazing speaker also, and he's going to share so many stories with you. But I will still continue. I think, Kate, we still have a few minutes for question.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have a quick question. At the
Sure.
very beginning, you talked about having to have this this foot in each canoe. So when things kind of get hairy, like they obviously did through COVID and stuff, is there a place that you go that's kind of your quiet place, or the place where you kind of reconnect with your kind of nature?
Okay, well, so I'm gonna go back a few years. Before COVID happened, my quiet place, and you're probably gonna be like, what? But so water means like it means a lot to me. Like that's where I feel most grounded, right? When I'm beside the water, when I'm sitting in sand and I'm beside the water. But there was a stint there where maybe about 5 years in a row, whenever something would like whenever I felt like I was so defeated, I would usually just get in my vehicle without telling anybody or anything at all, and I would just drive. I would just drive and drive and drive and drive and drive until I couldn't drive anymore, and I usually ended up in Key West. But for a long time, I would literally like just up and go, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's just the humbleness of the area, but I would go there, and I would like for a lot of times just sleep in my Jeep, and I would just sit by the water. I would sit by the water. And I would do that for weeks. I would do that for, a week or 2 weeks. I remember this one time I was gone for about 3.5 weeks, and I had to call Susie, and I was like, she was like, where are you? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm on my way back from Key West. So can you send me some money? And but I would just do that. I like that's what my body, my mind would just say, you know what, get in the car and go. And then I always ended up there. And then so when COVID hit and everything got locked down, it was just like I felt so trapped that I ended up like I disappeared in the far north, literally in the middle of absolutely nowhere, surrounded by trees. And that's where I like hid out until like this COVID thing kind of subsided. And then I kind of came back into society about a year ago, I guess. Hey, Susie. My driveway to this place was like is like 2 kilometers long into the middle of absolutely nothing but trees and water and rocks.
And wildlife. Don't forget the wildlife.
Yes, lots of wildlife.
And I believe that sometimes these are the part that stimulate you to just create a piece also.
Yeah. There was a
like
lot
to
of
go
times
hunting.
where when I would go and sit by the water, I would always have my paints, or I'd have my drawing book or whatever, and I would just sit there and paint. I would sit there and just paint by the water. So just like whatever, it
Yep.
just being one with my surrounding, my being in touch with the water again and such.
That's great, because water has a strong meaning for us, of
It
course.
sure does. Yes.
And if we didn't have enough water, we would be in deep trouble here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
True.
Deep.
So it's still open for some question for some of you that would like to have an answer. You have an amazing opportunity today to meet with Josy and see the kind of guy he is, an artist. So please feel very comfortable, and we're here for that.
All these questions are amazing questions, by the way. I just feel like I have so many answers to every single one question, we just I could go on for hours.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you're a
Conversation.
storyteller, a natural storyteller also. So great. And that's why I want people to come and see
Yeah.
your opening, see your exhibition. They will discover you. Like, Zoom is one thing to connect, but when you have the men alive on site, that's another story.
Yeah.
That's another story. And you're such an amazing person. So people need to come and really appreciate who you are, see the beauty that you do. So there's a question for you. Do you teach sculpture?
I do. A lot of times I'm willing to teach anybody who really wants to learn, you know. Um, I've had some people who thought they wanted to learn how to sculpt, and then after like the first few days decided, oh, no, it's not for me, you know. But if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach. And, you know, like to me, that's one of the things I could honestly say that I'm really proud that my grandfather gave me, was the ability to want to teach people, you know.
Yes.
Money or not, if you're willing to learn, I will teach you. Like, and that's, I guess, one of my downfalls is like, I always think that, you know, I should just do everything for free. And I'm always getting told by other people, no, 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 you got bills.
That's true. That's
Susie,
a market.
Susie.
Somebody's gotta take care of you.
So, but you know, like absolutely, if there's people that are willing and wanting to learn even the simple basics, I have absolutely no problem saying, you know what, here's my address, come to the workshop and let's get started. I have no problem showing and teaching.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. I have another question down here talking about stone. They want to know what kind of stone and tool that you use to do your carving.
Oh, my goodness, I have a lot of diamond files, carbide files that I usually use for harder stone, like marble, granite, alabaster, serpentine. Steatite is a good hard stone. The softest stone really to carve with would be like Brazilian soapstone. But I tried to stick with like the hardest stuff if I could, because I really love putting detail into my sculptures. So with the harder stone, your ability to do fine detail is a lot more feasible, rather than trying to do a fine detail piece with a soft stone like a brown Brazilian stone or whichever.
Yeah.
You know. So but yeah, I use like when I first started, I literally just had a bow saw and a half moon rasp, a rat tail rasp, and a utility knife.
Wow.
And over the years, you know, and just from that alone, like that was my way of sculpting for like years, you know. It wasn't until probably over, I would say, the past maybe 15 to 20 years where I was actually able to start getting power tools. And only reason why I started getting more into like the power tool part was because it was able to cut time in half for me to be able to do, like, for example, if I'm doing like a big marble piece, you know, the amount of time that it would take me to literally chisel out a sculpture, you know, whether it be abstract or detail, compared to cutting it out with a diamond disc, was like, you know, non-comparable. So it was like, you know, it made my life a lot easier, which allowed me to be able to spend more time to be able to do more detail on my pieces, to be able to like fulfill what people would rather want, you know, because you can only do so much for what you have for so long until you have to upgrade, right?
True.
But now with the harder stuff that I do, I have a lot of like power tools. I got a lot of diamond bits, carbide bits, burr bits. I got wet diamonds. So wet diamond bits is usually what I use when I do marble or like a really, really hard granite. It allows it to be able to carve the marble without burning out or smoking too much, right?
Yes.
Because it's such a hard piece. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Josy. Someone wants to know, they've been told that you sold, let me see here, you sold a piece of work of art to AGO. What was the process?
Well, selling the process was, I think, pretty hard to do. I know like Susie had to, you know, I know she had a lot of stuff to do in order to get it sold, but the type of piece that it was a political piece, again, a statement that's a part of my life. It's funny because that same piece, I tried to get other galleries to understand the significance of it, but I kept getting the backlash of the political part of it. A lot of times I got the response that, well, it's just too political. It's just too political. And to me, I kind of felt like it was a little bit of a slap in the face, because it's like, well, this is my life. How can you say it's too political when I'm living with this on a regular basis?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sharing something that for the most part, most people have a lack of knowledge in, you know? So yeah, and like, and I get in a sense, it is a very political piece, because like there's a lot of meaning behind it. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but let's just say one of the faces has a muzzle over the mouth, and there's a reason for that being, right? But yeah, I know Susie
Yeah.
could probably reach into more depth on the AGO piece as far as like the process of selling it to them, but in the actual long stance of it, yeah, it's a pretty political piece.
Okay, well, I really appreciate that you've been able to have your piece there, because I think it's worth it for AGO to have your piece there.
I'm
And
actually,
mean
yeah,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
There's another question down here that where they want to know, where do you find your sculpting stone? Where do you get the forage for it, or acquire it on the commercially
Uh,
based, or?
No, so some stones you have to order, like you just can't get in this area, right? Like Brazilian soapstone, Italian marble, those type of pieces you can't get in this area unless, you know, there's slabs, which are countertops. And, you know, if you're a sculptor, that's definitely not what you want. You want a nice big marble boulder, you know? So like, as far as like getting my materials, I have to outsource it quite often, but for the most part, when it comes to like a granite or anything like a quartz type of stone, I could literally go in a back field somewhere and pick up a nice piece of a granite rock laying there, and then cut a base on it and start carving it, you know? So in a sense, I would say it's 50-50, because 50% of it, I could just literally go in a bush and find it somewhere. And the other 50% is I have to bring it in from different countries.
True, 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 true. I know you always share with us that you get inspired by the spirit and everything, but there's one of the questions down here that says, do you think that a manual tools versus power tools will produce less personal piece of art? According to you.
If you're looking at it on a commercialized standpoint, yes. There becomes a point where if you're the type of sculptor that is making it so good that you no longer have to sculpt your stuff, and you know you're making like production line pieces, then yes, the feeling of it is no longer there. Not as much as it would if you're a single person carving. But me as a personal sculptor, I put just as much feeling into the sculpture using a power tool as I would with the hand piece. Now, and what I mean by that is, just because the hand piece creates more laborious work doesn't defect or doesn't define the amount of mental feeling that I put into the piece, right? It doesn't define the amount of emotional feeling that I still put into the piece. Just because it takes me, you know, a little bit less time to shape out a piece doesn't mean that the feeling isn't there. To me, I feel like being able to use power tools allowed me to be able to put more feeling and more heart into my carvings, because it allows me to explore that stone a lot more than I would be able to versus using just a couple of hand rasps and a saw, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it allows me to be able to put more of my emotion and my feeling into the piece.
Thank you so much for the sharing. I'm sure you have answered this next question down here, but I'm just going to say it is, when you allow the spirit from your sculpture, painting to birth itself, is there also a teaching, a story that comes with it? I think you have clearly specified that, but I just want to say it again.
Yeah, no, there's all like I to be completely honest, I cannot even remember when I just did a piece, whether it be a sculpture or a painting or even a canoe for that matter, without it meaning anything. Like everything that I do means something. I don't like, it's almost impossible for me to be just like, you know, like just start painting just on a canvas and not have a meaning behind it. Like I don't even know if that's possible. Like I don't think, Diane, is it possible, Diane? I have no idea. Like you're an artist too. Like
Yeah, I think for me, all the 30 years that I have accumulated between ceremonies and being the healing part and everything has a meaning in my painting.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
also to acknowledge our elders, our grandfathers, our grandmothers, you know, to say, this is our story. Look at the painting, because we want you to have a better lens of who we are as Indigenous. But
Yeah.
these are the truth, and this is our stories and everything. So I'm there with you. I have seen so much of you in many different form and shape that I am so glad that you're coming to the Leslie Grove Gallery, that Artist Network has been working with me amazingly to be able to do that. And I am so grateful. Kate has been one of the main person, and Angela also. And also not to forget Susie, because Susie has been a big part also on trying to put things together. So I want to acknowledge. And I think that was the end of almost the end. There's one person that wants to know if you ever carve in ice.
Oh yeah, plenty of times. It's actually, I find carving ice just as challenging as stone, if not even more challenging. I love carving in ice sculptures. I've done it plenty of times in like Quebec City and stuff. Also, I did it here in Toronto when they did the thing down in Yorkville here.
Yep.
But yeah, I love carving ice. It's, you know, I wish I could do it more often. I just don't really get a chance to do it as often as I would like. But no, yeah, I've done it plenty of times and I absolutely love it. Like I say, I like a challenge, right? And ice is like, that's definitely what it is.
Yes, so true. The many gratefulness to you for being here today, because I know you're a busy person in many different kind of things, and also to Susie, Susie multitask and make things happen for making that beautiful exhibition that it's coming. And I'm hoping that people will really come and meet you. They will not regret their visit to the gallery, honestly.
Yeah,
You know,
and I also want to thank you, Diane. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to thank Diane as well, because I mean, I think without your kind of drive and perseverance and connecting us with Josy and Susie, this never would have happened. And so I'm really, really excited to see the show, and I'm really glad that it all came together. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kate. For now, if we don't have any more questions, I would like to say Chimigwech, Josy, and Chimigwech, Susie, for being with us tonight. It has been very well loved by the board member and the many people that are part of Artist Network. We're trying to open people's mind on have a better understanding of our culture. And we have to be there all together to understand each other in a world that has so much racism and hatred. And this is not what we want. We want to show you all that we have teachings, we have amazing things to share with you, and come and meet Josy and ask questions. He's a very humble person and so much talented that he has a lot to offer. And I will be there the day of the opening. I will be there also to help you out for the setting up and everything. Kate, if you have a last word, that's yours.
No, just a reminder, the opening is August the 11th from 6 to 8. So I agree. Let's try and get out and sort of see the show. I'm really excited to, I feel like, I know I'm probably not allowed to, but I feel like I need to be close to the sculpture and want to touch it. I don't know, just from what you've said.
No,
That's how the energy and the spirit comes through.
Yeah, no, I encourage that. Like, you know, like for me, the way you're going to be able to connect with it is being able to connect with it physically, you know, and if you're there, you know, like even if you stand close enough, you know, some of the shows I've done, I you know, people have told me you could kind of feel it just kind of radiating off the sculpture as well, right? But just,
right.
You know, if you see a piece that you want to touch, feel free to do so.
Awesome. Okay, I'm so excited. I have permission from the artist.
Well, we're gonna have to watch you then.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yes.
Again,
Chimigwech, I'm so excited you were here, and thank you so much for everybody for attending the show, the education session and this talk, and thanks so much for your time in sharing your knowledge with us. It's been really, really great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again, Josy and Susie, and look forward to see you at the opening, the reception time, and the rest of the exhibition.
Yes,
Thank
for
you,
sure.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye for
you.
now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.